Hey everyone, we are back for another week of exciting rehearsals. This week we are talking DCI premieres with many of our hosts, and we also find out what made Austin say,
that drum corps is better than they were at the start of last season. That drum corps is better than they were at San Antonio last year right now.
And why Cindy said,
see, this is where you experts come into play, because I'm still trying to get past the uniforms.
All this and more, so get out on the field and we will see you back on the sidelines for this week's rehearsal of On a Water Break.
8 off the mat and go.
Welcome to On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk everything marching arts.
Everyone, bring it in. It's time for a water break.
Welcome to another episode of Season 2 of On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk about everything you and your friends are talking about at rehearsal on a water break. I'm Steve McCarrick, and we are in for an exciting rehearsal this week. We are talking DCI premiere, and we all just got finished watching the Bluecoats performance. I'm sure we're going to get into that in just a minute here, but before we get into that, let's see who's on the sidelines this week. We've got Cindy.
Hello.
Hello. I haven't talked to you in such a long time, I feel like. I'm so happy to finally be back on a call with you.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Yeah, what have you been up to?
Oh, just crazy summer stuff. You know, when you retire, they say that you're going to be as busy as you were in retirement as you ever were before. And I think that is more true than ever. It gives me more time to travel, more time to do band stuff, more time to watch drum corps. You know, all
I'm
the
so
things.
jealous. Yeah, no, I've been stuck away in the office just watching everything I can find online, but that sounds like a whole lot of fun. I'm excited to hear more about it in a minute here. We've got Stephanie with us.
Hello.
Hey, good to talk to you.
Good to see you as well.
I imagine you've been pretty active out with drum corps stuff going on this year. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to?
Yes. So I started off, I left, gosh, it seems like forever ago, but about second week of spring training for the Blue Devils, went to Wyoming where they do their spring training site, and I am the co-lead on their corps uniforms this year, so got every member fitted and got all those alterations done. I was there for I think 10 days and then came back for a week, and then this past Friday flew to Indianapolis and did the Muncie show and the Lyle show with Colts and Cavaliers. So I'm back home, leave again on July 5th, which is Friday, and do another 10 days with the Blue Devils before they, I go from July 5th all the way through Denver, and then I'm home for 3 days, and then it's Houston, San Antonio, all that. So busy summer, but I'm excited to get back out on the road again. And I think so far I may have seen almost everybody live except Bluecoats.
Wow.
I'm getting close.
That is amazing. I'm so jealous. That's crazy. I actually really love like so much about the Blue Devils show this year. And like I'm from the East Coast. I was like born and raised to not love the Blue Devils.
Yeah.
But I swear this year I just really love it. I want to spoil it all for my opinions for later, but I can't wait to talk more about that.
All right.
Awesome. Well, we'll get back to it for sure. We've also got Trish with us.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing?
I am doing great, and I have been talking to you a little bit. We've been back on our pods a little bit, and that's how I know that you've probably seen a lot of this all-age stuff that's been going on, right?
I did. I was at the Shelton show on Saturday.
Yeah,
and
that was
everybody's been asking me my opinions, and I told them I was saving it for the pod.
Oh, hell, that's great. I love that. I feel like I've heard there's been some real shakeups in the DCI all age a little bit. Real exciting stuff going on this year. So we'll get to that for sure in a moment here after we catch up with Jeremy from Drum Corps today. The most appropriate guy to have on the call here, man. I'm very happy you're with us. How are you doing, Jeremy?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, and it's just awesome to be back. It feels like it's been forever, but it's only been like a month or something. Time goes by so quickly.
Yeah, nah. It's just always swirling right back around. I feel like I just got done with WGI. This season seems like it's going so quick. I don't know if it's because I'm used to DCA being so much longer, but this feels like it's just like whirling by already. But we've also, I think we might have with us now on the sideline, Austin. Do we have Austin here? Yes, we can. I'm so happy, man. How have you been doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you. I've been a little bit in that same bag, but I'm starting to get the itch again. I was watching a lot this week. So yeah, we've got a lot of folks in here have seen a lot of drum corps actually. So I'm really excited to hear everyone's opinions. What were you thinking as we were getting into the season here? I know Jeremy, you've probably seen a lot of the show announcements come around. What were you kind of excited for getting into the year?
I'm gonna be honest, looking at so many different shows that were released this year, so many of them just seem so exciting, and then the season starts and it's like a handful of shows you expect to be super exciting are handful you're like, wow, this came out of nowhere. I mean, at first, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't sure about Phantom's show when they announced it. I'm like, this seems interesting, okay. And then I saw them do their premiere, there's Community Day in Rockford, and I'm like, sold. I think this might be my favorite show of the summer. Like it's incredible.
Phantom show is so cool. I totally agree. And like I don't even know really why. Like I'm a little bit more out the loop. Do you remember their show title? Because I missed it.
So their show this year is called Mind, Mynd, and the whole idea is they're going through like the human mind and exploring all those different aspects of our mind, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember thinking as I was going through the show, I was like, I have no clue really what the show is about here, but I'm loving every second of this because this is just like awesome drum corps that they're doing. Like, now that I know kind of more about the show, I see how it kind of pieces together. The first time I saw it, I was just thinking like the music was super cool. I love kind of those big metal props. It kind of reminds me a bit of like a Blue Coats 2015 type of thing. Super cool show.
There's a few different things that those props, whether it be that, I think there was a Vanguard show people were talking about. But when I first saw them, there wasn't a moment where I was thinking, okay, what's like the whole time I was just sitting on the edge of my seat. What's coming next? Oh, wow, this is an incredible big moment. Oh, wow, their fingers are moving. So like it's something is happening every single moment of the show. And it's so exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's a super cool show. Definitely want to talk more about that one maybe a little later on. But Cindy, you've been seeing some shows. What kind of have you gotten to see everyone, or what groups have you been seeing up until this point?
I got to see everyone except Madison Scouts. I wasn't fortunate enough to see them yet, but and I saw some of the open class, and was really kind of blown away with the Blue Devils Corps. Like they really, I was like, okay, I can see how the Blue Devils does so well when they've got these farm teams. Can we call them that? Like the minor leagues for
Yeah.
baseball. Well, Blue Devils has farm teams, and I'm like, okay, I see now where this talent's coming from. I think the B group could compete with just about uh, just about all of them. Really, I was impressed, but not just them. The troopers, I'm in love with. Phantom Regiment, like you said, I can't wait to talk about Phantom Regiment. Can't wait to talk about blue coats, red coats, yellow coats, whatever coats they're wearing this year. I'm here for it. So I enjoyed all of them.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm sure Cindy could even talk to you're talking about Blue Devils B being really good. It's probably it's like a structural thing over there. They just do drum corps really well. But Stephanie, you've been around Blue Devils a lot, and I'm sure you see like how they operate. It's no surprise at all that BDB gets to be as good as they are.
That's true. It is. And everything with BDPA, which is I guess the encompassing group. So it's starts with the C Corps, the B Corps, the A Corps. They have a special needs guard. They have a performing BD entertainment group is what I'm trying to say. They also have a WINS group. and then the 2 indoor drum lines. But everything there is just built around member experience. So I think Cindy's right. It is kind of like having farm teams, but because those members have such great experiences in the B Corps and C Corps, their goal is often to make the A Corps. Their goal is not to go somewhere else. So they do get that incredible training from the young age and then, come on up through the ranks. So is it an advantage? Maybe, probably. I would think so. Yeah.
It's good though, because I mean, they're training them at like the exact type of shows they want to do, and it looks like a lot of fun just to be in a BD show. Honestly, like that's all I could think the whole time as I was watching the BD show. Is like that just looks so fun.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And it's cool to see when they're all together. So when I go out this weekend, I'll be at Stanford is one of the shows where the A Corps, B Corps, and C Corps are all together. And it's really cool to see them cheering each other on. So it's a great family environment they've built there for sure.
Stephanie,
awesome.
can I please come
That's
tag
all you
along
need.
in your suitcase?
You're hired. Yeah.
I've got a
Come on.
sewing machine.
That's all you need.
Okay.
You're hired.
Yeah, I'm gonna also be shipping myself in a UPS overnight box if I can get there myself. But Trish, I understand you've been seeing all age probably a lot more than most of us have, being up here in the East Coast. Is there anything you maybe felt before you got to see it at the show this weekend? What were your initial thoughts on all age?
Yeah. My initial thoughts were that I kind of thought that the all age corps is jumping from DCA into the DCI spectrum. I kind of thought we get to see a little bit more risk taking, a little bit edgier type shows, a little bit more like we're on the stage where people do take risks and people do, get really artistic and put themselves out there and try some really esoteric type things. And that's kind of what I was expecting to see. But before we really get into detail on all that, because I know we will in a minute, I will tell you that the coolest thing ever, and it must have been the coolest thing ever for those members, was to hear performing their 2024 program, whatever. Drum Corps International is proud to present the Reading Buccaneers or the Hawthorne Cavaliers. Or to hear that was like the first time they said it. It was a little off-putting, but it was like, that is cool. That is really cool that now they're part of Drum Corps International.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I know that like it was a big thing around here. There's a lot more people that came out for these corps, like Bucks, Cabs, Bushwhackers, groups like that, specifically because now it's going to be a part of this like bigger picture, which seems like it's going pretty good for DCA. Like all together.
I would say so. I think it's off to a really good start.
I agree. It seems like things are going pretty well over there. Something I've been like real excited about personally, I mean, being a drummer, I just been wanting to see what Vanguard's going to be up to this year. Like, is Vanguard going to come back and really be like the same drum powerhouse that it's always been, or is it going to have to rebuild now? And man, it's tough to tell like through videos that I see online, but the show is just like super cool. It's so great to have like Paul Rennick's voice back in like the percussion community again.
It really is.
It's like for the longest time, I feel like I'm not in the minority at all by saying that like I was hoping someone else would win drums. I would almost be like, ugh, Vanguard again, kind of. But like just one season without like that voice out there, it was so like refreshing to see a group do it the way that they do it. So like I'm really enjoying seeing that out there again. How'd you guys like Vanguard show? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when I saw them that first night. I'm like, I'm not sure. I hope they're as good as they were, and they took this year off, and then just watching them, it's like, did they even take a season off? They're cooking on every level. The show's great, the design's great, the performers are just blowing it out of the park.
Yeah, I totally agree. Something I thought was cool about the show is like how kind of there really aren't a whole lot of props. Like in that way. Like the show, I need to watch it again to like really feel like I understand it a lot better. But I really appreciated the way they're just doing drum corps out there. Like
Well,
it's
they're
not really
vagabonds.
based.
That's what the whole concept is. They're vagabonds, and you're just traveling with what you got, what you can carry, what you got on your back, what you can carry, pick it up, and then you move on to the next location.
And ironically, the one prop that it seems they're using, each member wears a bag on their back that's holding the guard equipment. It's at the simplest level, they took the concept of a prop and just broke it down as little as they could.
Yeah, and I really liked it because then it's like the drum corps behind it really shined through. Like it was really great, just music, really great viz. It was just like super pure drum corps in a way. You know what I'm saying?
See, this is where you experts come into play because I'm still trying to get past the uniforms and not looking typical Vanguard-ish and the lack of props. Like when I'm watching them, and this could be a flow marching thing, but I'm having a hard time distinguishing the colors. And I'm hoping when I get in the Alamo Dome and I'm seeing it live, that's going to be different, because right now I'm struggling a little bit with the red and the blue, and it's like it's really dark on my screen, and it's not flashing like I want it to. I'm used to Vanguard being big and bold and bright, and so I'm struggling a little bit. I love their music, but also the Guard, I'm not seeing a lot of Guard equipment. So I don't know if it's because it's all in their backpacks or what. I just need to see it a few more times. And I'm kind of not an expert at this kind of thing. So it's interesting to hear y'all and what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's like well, it's definitely going to look better when it's in a real stadium with like the real lighting on like a good field. So I'd be excited to see it there, but more than anything, like seeing it in person is how it's going to really probably shine through the best. Stephanie, I feel like you were about to say something here right before I cut you off. What were you about to say?
I was going to say I like the Vanguard show more every time I watch it, but I love that they're not using props because I think that sets a standard for maybe some of our high school marching bands nationwide that feel like they have to cover the field with props. And so I think this is a good testament to sometimes you just play well and you just look good and, you get those visual scores up. So I hope that this works for them because I think it'll set a new standard for everybody nationwide.
I agree. I like it for that. That was like kind of why I was saying, like, I think it's super cool that the drum corps shines through when you don't have all these other like props on the field that you're trying to make a production out of. Really makes the performers be the focus of it all. So a lot of these other groups are doing similar stuff. We're going to talk about more of that in a minute here. But after that, we got to pop to a quick commercial break. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey, this is Christine Ream.
And Chris Green.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include winter guard, band, percussion, and other genres.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs.
Our consignment inventory has plenty of great looks for your color guard, drumline, and marching band.
Pay it forward. When you purchase consignment, you help other programs. Last year, we sold over 400 sets of consignments and returned over $125,000 in payments to our consigners for their sales.
Additionally, Guard Closet offers custom and pre-designed costumes, flags, floors, and formal wear, full or partial show writing, educational programming, and other services.
Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
The Guard Closet team is here to help you get everything you want and need for your season. Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
All right, we are back and we are going to talk more drum corps coast to coast here. So I want to start on the West Coast. We've got a couple great shows going on out here. We already talked a little bit about a few of them. Stephanie, why don't you get us started and talk a little bit about what you see out in California?
All right, so I'll start with what I know the best, and that is Blue Devils. They're doing a show called The Romantics this year. It is probably one of my favorite Blue Devils shows that they have done. I didn't think that they could beat 22 or 23 in my book. This 24 ballad is my most favorite Blue Devils ballad of all time. It's a different look for them. They have these long capes. They're black velvet.
The capes are so cool.
Oh, yeah, they're so cool. It just gives a different look and feel. And if you'll notice, there's, I'm not sure exactly how many, 6 or 7 maybe of these props that are on the field. They all open a different way. Everything is very, it's just very intelligent the way that it's used, but they play a lot of notes and they play a lot of music and they move a lot. So that's one thing that I noticed that I'm seeing maybe not quite as much in the Midwest and that I think that's a West Coast thing. It always has been a West Coast thing. So people that think maybe, they'd like to see someone different than the Blue Devils on top. I'm not saying that they're going to be on top. I'm just saying that it's a really, really fantastic show and it translates beautifully live. I don't think you get all the nuances on flow. I kind of saw that with some Midwest cores this weekend as well, but live, it's something else.
Yeah, I thought the whole show just was like eye candy between like the different colored uniforms, all the like intricacies of the props that they had out there, and like the way that they move. Like everything about the show was so entertaining and so like interwoven the whole time that I was watching it too. Like
one thing I love about them,
entertainment. No, go ahead.
One thing I love about the Blue Devils is you always know who they are. Like they're not drastically changing their appearance every year. Yes, they have a different look, but there is always something about their costume, uniform, whatever you want to call it, that is specific to Blue Devils. And I love that. I love that. That's a characteristic. No, we're not wearing old style uniforms like we used to, like the boomers want. Yes, I'm a boomer, but I have come to appreciate the new age. But I do appreciate that the Blue Devils, you just know it's them. Now, of course, they sound like the Blue Devils. You could have your eyes closed and know it's them. But I love that their look still, there's always just that uniqueness that tells you, oh, that's the Blue Devils.
That's right. That's right. I agree 100%. When they play that first note, you know exactly who it is.
Absolutely.
But there is not a sameness is probably not the right word, but I agree 100%. When they are standing in that end zone, you know exactly who they are. You know, they play the first note, you know exactly who they are. And so there's a familiarity, I think, with the audience, which is something else that is, I think it's a good thing. I don't think you have to change every year. You don't have to reinvent yourself when you're doing things well and your identity is stable. I think that you can just do those things that you do well and then just make them a little bit better every year.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's like such an opposite perspective from what like I've been bred to believe growing up in like the heart of the cadets area of the East Coast. We're just like bred to be BD haters. But like I feel like it just, after a while as I've gotten older, I just watch the shows and they're so artistic and well thought out, and just like they are always excellent above all else. And like this year, more than anything, I totally agree. You said more than the last couple of years. Even the last couple of years were like really good shows. This BD year is like, it's a really good BD year.
Also, I feel like on the East Coast, we're kind of throwing in the towel a little. I mean, let's face it. We're like, they're going to win. They're going to win. I mean, I don't know this year if they're going to win. You know, we'll talk about it when we get more towards the Midwest and the East. But, you know, I kind of feel like we're desensitized now. It's like, they're going to win. And maybe this will be the year that things will shake up a little bit. But I think that little East Coast edge that we have, Steven, comes from like them being so great all these years that we're kind of like, what can we expect?
We're just like bred to be pessimistic over here. Just
kind of
deep in our DNA of being East Coast people. Well, there's other groups on the West Coast too that are out there doing crazy stuff. We did talk about Vanguard already a little bit, but Jeremy, what else is going on out there in the West Coast?
So, a corps that I was super excited that had a great show last year that's once again coming out absolutely swinging is the Mandarins. I mean, their show this year, I'll be honest, it's French, and I can't speak French, but it's all Mardi Gras themed. They've got a lot of things like New Orleans themed and concepts like that. Pretty much throughout the show, they've got different parts where some members put on a mask, like a Mardi Gras mask, and they do all these different combinations of that sort of Mardi Gras style, that gold, green, and purple color pattern, and they use it in a few different ways throughout the show.
Yeah, I thought that show was super exciting, and like Mandarins have been getting really good at making like just real good GE shows over the last couple of years. Like they're that up and comer with the that super exciting show design. I thought it was super cool the way that like the set changes immediately, like at the top of the show when like the drum corps is revealed and stuff like that. They kind of get out of that outside into inside the club. I thought it was super cool.
Oh yeah, with them being so.
I'm sorry. Even on flow marching, that translated well. The walls fell down, and there they were. And I was not expecting that, and that was just so cool. I'm sorry, that was awesome.
And they're so loud. The Mandarins, like they could put some air through those horns. They are so loud, and I know that's not points, but the crowd goes wild.
Hey, that's Trevor,
hit that
though,
first
isn't it?
opening statement.
Yeah.
That is Trevor. He's on brass staff over there.
Yeah. I mean, I know he's going to be super busy this summer, but I mean, if we could get him to pop on with us and get some inside scoop, that would be really cool.
I'm sure we'll get him at some point. I'll make it happen.
Oh yeah, I mean, with the Mandarins, I actually Googled the title of their show because I'm like, what does this even mean? So the actual title of their show, I'm gonna butcher this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It's called Vous Carré, I think.
Yeah.
It's actually an alcoholic beverage created in New Orleans. It's a cocktail with rye whiskey, cognac, sweet vermouth, Benedictine, and Peychaud's bitters. And it originated in the Walter Bergeron. It originated with Walter Bergeron, a bartender in the Carousel Bar in the hotel. Oh God, I'm going to butcher this too. Hotel Monteleone in New Orleans. So that's kind of what it's all based around. I think it's kind of based around kind of speakeasy-ish, but that specific cocktail out of New Orleans.
Okay, because for a second I thought we were going to say last year Blue Stars taught us about absinthe. This year the Mandarins are teaching us about Southern drinks, which that'd be an interesting twist.
I mean, if the shoe fits.
Well, I'm excited to see some more of that, but we got some more regions of the country that we got to talk about. Why don't we slide over to the Midwest, which has got some fierce competition for these spots. I'm sure we all want to talk about the Bluecoats. But Jeremy, what other action do we see out of the Midwest this year?
So I know I mentioned it before, but I'm going to be super biased and mention it again. Phantom Regiment is just absolutely smoking this year. I mean, I know since, 2019 on, they've just, something changed in the organization and they flipped a switch and they brought back some older, J.D. Shaw used to write for them back in the day. He's back. They brought a whole bunch of old people who used to write for them back in the day. And they're like, let's reinvent Phantom Regiment with this modern age, but still keep the core of what is Phantom Regiment. And they've done an absolutely incredible job, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, they're so like symphonic. Like their sound is just like so like big and resonant, I feel like.
I love the whole opening statement, the whole Moonlight Sonata, because it takes you back to, the classical stuff that they probably once upon a time played it before they've been in that genre. But it also sounds like it's kind of a derivative of the Hidden Citizens version of Moonlight Sonata. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. My Winterguard did it in 2023, and yes, I can mention it because I did have the sync rights. But it kind of, if you've ever listened to that, it kind of has all that all those powerful effects behind it. And then when I first heard it, I was like, this sounds like the Hidden Citizens version, but they do list it as Beethoven. So maybe they just came up with that on their own, but all that edginess in the beginning and taking that classical piece and making it a little bit, it's so cool. I really, really like that.
I don't remember exactly which piece they had mentioned, but during the fan con when they announced their whole show and everything, I want to say that they had said that what specific version of Moonlight Sonata it was. Like it's technically still Beethoven, but it's the specific rendition that you were talking about.
The Hidden Citizens, check it out. And again, I had to sing this.
Phantom
As
show
just
was
an everyday
cool.
fan, I loved that. I don't know if y'all noticed the part where they're all hidden and stuck in these boxes at the beginning, and the guard. It's chaos. Obviously, the show is about your chaotic mind and how it comes full circle and all that, blah blah blah. But I love that it's chaotic at the beginning, and the guard is pouring out of these cages. But then I guess it's halfway through, and the entire brass section is trapped in the cage, and you see all the, I guess it may be the trumpets, euphoniums, I'm not sure, but you see all these bells of their instruments coming out of this cage, out of these little boxes, and it's just, the visual this year with Phantom is just as cool as everything else they have going on. It's just an exciting show.
Yeah, I really like when groups have like a distinct style. Like we were kind of talking about that with BD earlier, and I feel like Phantom definitely has that going on as well, where it's like they have their own thing, their own color palette, and their own like way of doing drum corps, and they're just getting better at it every single summer. I really, really like it this year. But let's talk about the Blue Coats this year. I think it was called Change is Everything, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's that's the show title. It's words. It's interesting. I've seen a lot of talk about it. Does it have anything to do with the cadets? Like, I just want to throw that out there, because a lot of people were saying when they did the announcement, the color palette with the show announcement, the colors they're going with, the red as like the red coats, as a lot of people are calling them, as their like base palette for this show. And the whole change, it's going to happen, and really sucky things like the cadets folding happens, but the only thing we can keep doing
really
is
interesting. I hadn't heard that, but that's really interesting, because there are several people on the Blue Coat staff, Greg Lagola, Jim Moore, John Vanderkolk, that were involved in the cadets back in the day. They all came from the cadets. So they could really just be paying homage to. Who's the Corps? I'm trying to think of who it was, but I just saw it on social media today. Is it a Midwest Corps? I can't remember, but is doing the Holy Name brass the bass drum configuration.
The bass drum pose.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to
they're doing
think
the
I
HB
saw
pose?
it too, and
Phantom Regiment and the Blue Coats are both doing it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I know that there's someone on the Blue Coats from HB. Honestly, your theory makes a lot of sense, Jeremy, because there's a lot of people from cadets in Blue Coats, you know?
And how cool is that all of these groups are finding these little teeny tiny ways to pay tribute to and just kind of keep them up. How cool is that? That's really cool.
Yeah, and whether you like the cadets or hate them, they're such an integral part to the history of drum corps. The activity wouldn't be the same without them. You
1,000%.
Can't disagree with that.
But I was really looking forward to tonight's show in Cincinnati to watch it on Flow, because I texted one of my friends. I said, this is a really good guard battle tonight between Blue Coats, Crown, and Boston. That's a really good guard battle. And going into this, going back to the Blue Coats, and going into this, I kind of thought that the Blue Coats were going to be like a front runner for the guard title this year, based on I thought they were really underrated last year. I think BD definitely deserved to win guard, but I thought Blue Coats were really underrated, number one. Number two, that whole staff and some of the members just came off winning WGI World Class with Fusion. And I just thought, I was like, you know what? That's two things going for them right now. This could be it. And I was actually looking through my phone as soon as the scores were announced to see who won guard, and it was Boston. And we'll get to Boston when we talk about the East, but it's going to be a battle this year. It really is. And I think the Blue Coats guard is going to pick up right where they left off, not only last summer, but this past winter. And I think they're going to contend for it. They are.
It was just 1/10. It was a 15-8 to 15-7.
Yeah.
And then Crown right behind it, a 15-5.
Yeah.
And Phantom, no slouch at a 15-2. Like, they were all right there within 1 point.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is not Boston. This is Bluecoats, literally their first competitive show this season. I mean, they did their preview show on Flow a few days ago, but this is their first competitive show, and they're already scoring a 78. Wow.
Yeah, I've really liked the show too for being like conceptual, but really like easy to understand. Like they have one giant red prop in the middle, and the uniforms don't make tons of sense yet, at least to me at that point in the show. And then as they change and break apart the prop and kind of break down the idea of like change or whatever, then I feel like the smaller shreds of the uniform kind of match the smaller shreds of the prop. It all like kind of makes this full picture to me that I thought made sense. And Trish, I'm not like a color guard person, but I did really like when they used those really, really thinner flags near the end of, I think, the ballad in like the backfield. They had a lot of different like ripples that were going throughout it too. And I thought
gorgeous.
Gorgeous moment. Like, even as someone that's not into it's not that I'm not into color guard, but I'm a drummer. I'm not always watching what's going on out there.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
I'm not a drummer.
But that was super cool.
That was cool. They have that one really cool silent flag feature too, right up in the front. They got to tighten it up a little bit more. But again, like Jeremy said, this was their first competitive show tonight. But that's going to be a really nice moment too.
It really is. One thing I noticed with Bluecoats that I haven't heard anybody say, obviously this is their first competitive show, and they had their premiere on Flow on Saturday night. I tuned in for that one as well. I'm a Bluecoats fan through and through. I really am. I always have been, and I have several, students that I know that are marching this year, but I don't think they play a lot. I noticed that again tonight. I noticed it Saturday. And then tonight it was blazingly obvious to me. So I am not throwing stones. I'm not. But I know there's always some Instagram that goes through and they put together the amount of time that a group plays as an ensemble. And I am so looking forward to that. But that was the one thing that I did notice about Bluecoats tonight is I just didn't feel like they played a whole lot or played a whole lot as an ensemble.
They do a lot of choreography.
They do, and they do it so well.
They do it well.
They do it so well.
Yeah, their ballad definitely was interesting in that way. Like the ballad did not really have it was a lot more solo oriented at a lot of the time. I felt like it was definitely like a
as well.
Changed way of doing drum corps for sure, which is probably their point, but different strokes for different folks with that sort of design.
That's right. And we just got changes everything also from Paramount this winter. So the universe of WGI and DCI is trying to tell us that change is obviously coming. We're getting it from these great groups.
Well, I think that there is certainly change coming over on the East Coast. We've already seen quite a good bit of change occur on the East Coast over here. Trish, why don't we talk a little bit more about some of that all-age activity up in Connecticut last weekend?
Okay, well, first of all, the show was at Shelton High School in Shelton, Connecticut. It was an all-age and open class, DCI open class show, and it was super windy. Oh my gosh, it was so windy. But they all got through it. I got in open class, I got to see the Spartans. And their show is very, very cool. It's called Utopia. We had their guard caption head on at the end of WGI season, Addison Cavaliers, talking about what their show was going to be about. It's basically like the Burning Man Festival. And because of the wind, they couldn't use their props. And every time, their props turn around, it's a different art installation or something like that. So they couldn't do it because of the wind. But they're Addison was not kidding with that 50-person guard. And their Blue Devils B is definitely ahead of them score-wise, but their show wasn't done. Spartan show wasn't done. And what they had, I thought, was really, really cool. I think it's going to be one to watch as we go on. And even 7th Regiment was really small last year when I saw them, and I saw them really late in August, right before DCI actually. And this year they came out with a much bigger guard. I think core-wise it was similar, maybe slightly bigger, but the guard was a lot bigger. Excuse me. And They were really good as well. As far as the all-age stuff goes, I was kind of surprised that, like, let's take a corps like the Reading Buccaneers. Okay, the Reading Buccaneers, the last couple of years in DCA, first of all, they've won several titles. And like last year, their show was called Can't Stop, Won't Stop. And it was really edgy, and the flag said Can't Stop, Won't Stop on it. They had these big scaffolding props that they got up and down on. And they really looked like they were taking risks and really trying to, be really, like, okay, let's try something edgy. Let's try something a little bit different. And I was really surprised to see going into it. They won the show, but going into it, I was like, all right, here's their chance to go off because, they're going to be, at DCIs with the Blue Coats and all these corps that really, go out there and do these really esoteric different shows, really out there that kind of make you scratch your head and think. And their show was titled Hat Trick. So I was like, all right, this is going to be cool. And it was so the opposite. It was so elegant and shiny and bright. And it was very, very good. But I was like, here was their chance with the Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Even 2 years ago, they did a show called Altered Ego, where the front of the corps uniform was their traditional Reading Buccaneer top, and on the back it was totally different. So every time they turned around, they had an alter ego. It was so different. It was so out there. It was so cool. And this year, they're very, very, very good, but they just went in a totally different direction. Like their flags were shiny and their costumes were shiny and everything was white and bright. And I was just like, it was cool. And it was really nice to see, but I thought, here's your chance, like the Blue Coats, to go off and be edgy and create, and you went like the elegant route, which was kind of surprising, but really good. Maybe they are a little bit afraid that they're going to take in risks with all of those world-class corps. Maybe they're afraid, it's not going to, match up, but they were very impressive. They're always very good. But I was just a little bit shocked by that. Then, the surprise of the night was one of my old teams, the Bushwhackers, knocked off the Hawthorne Cavaliers, which is pretty exciting. They were really excited. Bushwhacker show is, I think it's called The Ride. And it's like a travel show. They have suitcases. They're traveling. And here's another thing I wanted to say. I remember being on this podcast exactly 1 year ago when I went to that Shelton show. And I was like, we didn't see a single guard costume. We didn't see a finished show. We didn't see anything. And I remember being on this podcast saying, how's this going to play out in a year when they're in DCI, when the season is 3 weeks shorter? You don't have that time this year to wait on your costumes or don't finish your show or, whatever. I was completely right. Totally not the case. Everybody was in costume. Everybody's show was done. Everything was done. I mean, so you can really tell that there was a definite different approach going into this. The Hawthorne Cavaliers were really unique as well. Their show was called Different Strings. And instead of the last couple of years, they've had big giant props. I think they either bought or used them from AMP, like last year and the year before. This year, none of that in the background, unless they're coming, but none of that in the background. They had like cellos. They had like made like cellos as their props all over the field. It was very, again, elegant, classy, like not edgy at all. And it was really, really great. It was really, really great to see. The Connecticut Hurricanes too. They actually did go a little bit edgier. Their show's like a Western. It's like old Western movie with and their soundscape was all about like this storyline about this Western. And at one point it's like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to make you let you live and pay for what you did. And, you have to kind of follow the storyline, but they were in costume, which they weren't last year. Their show was done. Everything was so definitely taking a different approach. And what was interesting was, I was asking a friend of mine, I have a really good friend who's on the administrative staff at Spartans, and I said, well, how's it being scored? Like, what are they using their own sheets? And they're not. Everybody in DCI, world class, open class, all ages, all us being scored on the same sheets. But there's concessions apparently made. I'm still trying to get more information on that. Hopefully, I'll have that for you guys next time. But supposedly there's concessions being made, like the Ready Buccaneers are not scoring close to the Blue Devils in reality. You know what I mean? So it's like they're kind of, I don't know if it's on a different scale, but it is the same sheet. It is the same criteria. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, but very, very impressive and very different opening night for all age for sure.
Yeah, it's super interesting because like my girlfriend teaches at the Bushwhackers, which is like a weekend only drum corps, and everyone was concerned, like, are they going to be able to get this done in time? So much of like the DCA grind takes place in August. And really, like, I'm sure it's the same thing everywhere, but at Bush, at least, like, they've just been like ramming down the path of just like getting good, just like asking more of the students, and the students just rising to the occasion. And that's like what seems like the whole corps is doing. Like your comparison to the Shelton show last year. I shouldn't leave out the Sunrisers. They actually came back to the field this year after taking 2 years off. So that was really, really nice to see. Yeah, so that was cool. But very great night. I'll be in Clifton July 13th to follow up to see where this goes, and all good. Awesome. I can't wait to hear about it. But we still, while we're on the East Coast, we got some heavy hitters to talk about over here. Why don't we start with Boston? Let's talk a little bit about Glitch, which I think was like a super cool show. Totally the way it kicks off reminds me of Bluecoats 2015, which to me is like one of the highest compliments I can give. It's like one of my favorite shows ever. But what do you guys think about Glitch?
It's growing on me. It's definitely growing on me. The first time I watched it on Flow, I was like, I'm not sure, but it's definitely growing on me. It's pretty cool. It's a different look. Would you guys agree? It's a different look for the Boston Crusaders for sure.
One thing I'm fascinated by is how they take those hula hoops and do so many crazy things. Yeah. I mean, the guard, even the core members, they're doing a lot of. I couldn't take my eyes off the hula hoops.
Yeah, they are. And when you see it live, they're big. Like I think on Flow, it kind of makes it look like it's a hula hoop, like you used with MPE when you were little. They're big. Like they were taller than I was.
Okay.
When you see them on the sideline. So, and that to me makes it even more impressive because the larger the hoop, probably the harder it is to deal with. I would assume.
And they had them out the whole show pretty much. I mean, they did a lot of things with that, and that and the colors. I wasn't sure about the colors when they revealed them, but when I watched it on the field, it really does work on the field. It really does, and I can't wait to see the lights pop on their. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
not their hats.
I've seen them twice live now, and I don't know if they didn't use them, the LEDs, or if I couldn't see it because they weren't at night either time. So maybe they didn't use them, but I'm excited to see them at night because I think that'll add a whole different element that I haven't been able to experience so far. They certainly aren't translating on Flow if they are using them. But the other thing with Boston is their percussion. Colin McNutt has done just a fantastic job with their percussion again this year. I think that's definitely a highlight as well, and they use them really, really well. And in the all black, I think it just makes them pop off even more. Like somebody was really smart when they designed for the drumline to go into all black.
Yeah, that would feel so cool.
Percussion should always be that dark. I don't know, that representation of the toughness. That's just percussion in my mind. and you're right. It was brilliant design choices.
It really was.
Yeah, that battery is always incredible. They play like the most notes per minute that I can think like anyone in the activity probably does. just takes like crazy chops to be in that snare line, especially, but quad line too. The whole entire percussion section over there is super cracked. The other East Coast group out here shaking up things, we got Carolina Crown with their show Promethean, which being a Crown alum, I really liked that show a lot. I feel like it's Crown always has a way of doing like really fundamental drum corps at a really high level, and I just like love watching them hit like a super clean form and be just super loud, very high quality. And like, I'm pretty sure you could even go back, check the logs. I think I remember talking last year about their percussion section and saying that like, I think that this is going to grow into something that's really nice. And I think like already we see this year, like Crown's percussion section, like really stepping forward in this like new scheme that they put together. It's like cool to see a voice that we're so familiar with in indoor as percussionists, like with Broken City, start to really like come to life outside in this like context of such really high quality music. That's me like touting over Crown as an alum.
I'm Crown fan number one over here. And I didn't think that they were going to be able to top last year for me, but I could definitely see this one coming real close to that in my book. I was blown away the first night I watched it on Flow. Tonight I thought the guard was a little droppy, but that'll be fixed. But the first time I saw it, I think it was Saturday, Sunday, I don't remember what day. I was blown away. It's going to be one of my favorite shows for sure.
You know, one thing I've noticed about this show is how it kind of reminds me of how Avon incorporates their guard in such a way that they are actually part of the ensemble, whereas they're not in the back. They're not, they just work them in like they're featured, but they're part of, I don't really know how to explain it the way I saw it, but it just really struck me from the beginning where they're coming down off of that huge prom. But they're integrated into the core almost the entire
really
show.
Well.
And it's something I'm not seeing a lot from drum corps. And I know Avon does that extremely well, as they should, with Avon Guard. But I just like, that just really occurred to me, like Crown is doing the same thing. I don't know if that has anything to do with who's running the show over there or what, but kudos to Crown.
Yeah, I definitely think they took a step forward in their total package show design this year in comparison to the recent years. They've just, their performers, even I think their performers are so much better in the early season than they have been in the past, which is like phenomenal. It looks like their training is just getting better and better and better each year, which it's already been at a high level for years and years and years. But this just feels like a different Crown group in the best way possible to me. I don't know about you guys, but it's something about them this year feels a little different in the best way possible. And I'm like super about it. Their show, their package from start to finish is just really, really well put together. The use of the props, the use of the colors that they have. I wasn't a huge fan of the color scheme at the very beginning when I saw them put it out on social media, and then I saw it hit the field. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm totally about this.
Oh no, the costumes are gorgeous. The guard costume and the core
uniform. Oh yeah, they're awesome.
Gorgeous.
And I love just like it's a very simple type of idea, but like Prometheus and representing fire through the color guard just looks so good throughout the whole show. Like that integrated hit that you're talking about in the beginning of the show, Cindy, when like the color guard is, I think they're doing a flag feature and it's like spread throughout the entire core, just looks so like full. But what were you going to say, Jeremy? My bad.
It was interesting because I actually had the opportunity to see them at Cavalcade the other day, and I was in the lots with warm-ups going from group to group. And one thing, this kind of goes for everyone, that the pictures you see of uniforms on social media and actually seeing the uniforms in real life, they look like two totally different things. Like Boston's uniforms, they look like one thing online. In person, they are so unbelievably bright. Like people were saying they look like highlighters. No, they're brighter than highlighters. Like they light up. And with Crown's uniform, like in pictures, they look super dull, but that's because you can't see the detail in the design of like it's almost steel armor, like from Greek times armor, like Prometheus would have had. And it just fits in with the show so well, and so much of the nuance you just can't see on social media.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like a lot of that's Crown uniforms a lot of years, because there's a lot of things going on in there where sometimes I remember back in 2018 we had a uniform reveal and people were like, they weren't too sure about it, but then you see it in real life and it's very detailed and there's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of textures, and you really can't take any show for real until you've seen it in real life. That's what it's being designed for. But let's pop back. I got to go check out a couple more of these shows here because we've got a couple more that we need to talk about after this short break. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy, and here are your announcements coming from the box. Don't miss all of our bonus content, including On a Water Break in Rhinestones with your host Lexi Duda, exploring the world of the twirlers. Don't miss Parades and Drum Majors at Step Off with your host Jack Goudreau, and get lost in translation with your host Cynthia Bernard, exploring all the words that confuse all of us in the marching arts all across the world. And go Behind the Lens with marching arts photographers all across the country with your host, Chris Marr. Plenty more bonus content from On a Water Break, so listen anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to be on a Water Break as a guest, or you know somebody that would make a great guest for On a Water Break, email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com or find us on social media. Okay, field staff, take it away.
Let's reset.
And we are back. We got even more drum corps that we need to talk about. Cindy, I know you've been itching to talk about the Troopers. Why don't you tell us a little bit about their show this year?
Well, their show is called Dance with the Devil, and evidently it is sort of a playoff of what they did last year. It's like part 2 a little bit. They've lassoed the sun, and now they're looking to dance with the devil, and hopefully they're not going to give away their soul in the process. Unfortunately, they are not playing The Devil Went Down to Georgia. They're not playing that, but that's okay. They got a lot of other great stuff. They're doing The Other Side, Hyperlink, House of the Rising Sun, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, and Weight of the World. And they just look phenomenal this year. You can tell that they are dialed in. I am so excited for the Guard. You can really see their new staff changes there have paid off, and I am just, the whole package is there. Troopers has just been on the cusp of greatness the last few years, and I am just so anxious to see this one live. It sounds so good, and I just can't wait. I don't know what it is about a cowboy show, but they can keep doing these cowboy shows and I'll be here for it every year.
Yeah, that's that core identity that we keep talking about all throughout the show. I like it when a group has something that they come back to that I want to keep seeing.
Absolutely.
Apparently, I think Cynthia's been over at Troopers as well, so maybe we'll get to hear a little bit more about the tour this summer from Cynthia sometime soon. Why don't we take a little chat, though? Speaking of folks around us that have been on tour, we've got Ricardo over at Academy. Have you guys gotten a chance to see Academy yet?
No, but our good friend Nicole is there too.
She is. Nicole is there, Ricardo, and then I'll get the chance to see them on Friday night. So I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, I was just looking up for a video of them earlier today, and there wasn't one that I could find yet on YouTube, and I was so bummed, but I can't wait to check it out.
I'm wanting to say that last night was their first live performance. It was their first show, was maybe last night.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like Jeremy just dropped in the chat. Maybe we just had the guard toss turnaround. But I'm excited to see them as soon as we can here. I'm sure we're going to get some videos shared around in our chat as soon as they are going around on the internet. We've also got Crossmen. We were just doing an alumni interview with Crossmen. What did you guys think of their show?
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't heard anything about them at all, really.
Well, maybe
their camp is about 45 minutes away from where I live up here in Northwest Arkansas. They're over in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And I got to go last year and see their the night that they do the preview. I didn't get to go this year, but I caught it on video. And I have to say, I'm seeing a more predominant, better Crossmen this year than I saw at this time last year. And the show last year didn't really grab me. I don't know, but this year it really, they're looking great, and I think that we're going to be talking about them more this year than we did last year.
Yeah, I got to see their video. They did a live stream on their YouTube channel. And before the season started, I was thinking, something we haven't seen a whole lot. We haven't seen a lot of jazz recently. And they decided to go, you know what? We're doing all jazz. Not everything is jazz, but their show is so jazzy. They're going, hey, we just got knocked out of finals and we don't like that. We are going to come back and fix that. And I'm so excited to see between them, Blue Knights, Pacific Crest, that competition. Madison looks like they're coming out of nowhere a little bit this year. It's going to be so exciting to watch those right at the cusp cores.
Yeah, speaking of Pacific Crest, I think, Austin, you've been kind of paying a little bit of attention to what's been going on there, right?
Yeah, I kind of checked them out a little bit. I watched both the Walnut shows. It's a little weird. They don't have the Rose Bowl. They didn't have the Rose Bowl this year, which I'm very sad about. I loved that show when I performed there the one time I did. They kind of put SoCal into two shows. They did a student edition, so they did a lot of group sales for all the high schools in the area the first night, and then the second night was just kind of general admission. So for those of you who are kind of wondering what that was, that's kind of what was going on with it. I was also really confused. I was like, what do you mean there's two shows in Walnut back to back and everyone's at the same place? And then it made sense. But Pacific Crest, the training going on over there is actually really, really good. I like what the students are doing a lot. You can tell that they're a super young group, but a lot of those lower tier world class drum corps are always like that. For all intents and purposes, that's just what it is. A lot of kids will go to your Music Cities, your Pacific Crests, even Troopers. When I was marching there, they'll go there and then they'll want to go audition at Blue Coats and Crown and Blue Devils and all that stuff. But the educational staff is doing a really, really good job over there of training the kids up really, really well. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing from the performers on the field. I think the show has a lot of room to grow. And there's a couple of weird things within the design elements, but I think those kinks can get worked out pretty well. I'm just kind of excited to see where they're going to go with everything coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm excited to see as those performers get better too. The show is really going to rise in quality. That's kind of how it goes with those younger world-class corps, especially. Big one that we've not talked about yet, Cavaliers. Stephanie, I think you've got a good bit to talk about the Cavaliers, don't you?
I do. I saw the Cavaliers live this weekend. Seen lots of videos, obviously, at my house through my son. I think the Cavaliers, they have gone back kind of an iconic look for them. It's called Beyond the Armor, Behind the Armor. I should know that.
Beneath the Armor?
Beneath the armor. I'm so sorry. Oh my god.
Above, beneath, above, below.
Is that an adverb? Is that a preposition anywhere a mouse can go? So anyway, it is really. It's another one of those that we've talked about. You've got to see it in person. First of all, the props are one side. They really do look like armor. And then they turn and they have some faces on them. But the armor side does not translate on float. It is some beautiful props. Beautiful. And then the color guard, I think, really took a huge step up this year. I think they were significantly better than they were at this time last year. I was telling someone last week, I really feel like they started off exactly where they left off last year for finals. They came in and they just started at that point instead of taking some steps back and then having to build, which is typical. And then their percussion, of course, was our percussion champion last year with the Cavaliers. And it just, I mean, they've got the entire staff is back. The same writers, and it really is, it's really fantastic. There's some really interesting things that if you really listen for them, again, it doesn't translate to flow, just the way their microphones are placed and the way these moments happen. You don't hear them when you're watching on TV, but when you're actually in the audience, you get some of these really cool metal tones that are, of course, talking about the armor. And you hear these metallic tones that come out of the front ensemble that are just really cool. So it's another one that I would say definitely it's a catch-in-person one for sure.
Hey, Stephanie, what are those faces on some of the props?
There is when they turn around the faces, there are some vocals that I noticed for the first time on Saturday. I don't know that I heard them on Friday that are that kind of reflect to that about seeing and eyes and watching. So it's another one of those that makes sense, but I think those are some additions that have come in that now kind of help bind everything together. So I hope you'll catch it live. I think it's a good little piece. Percussion is, like I said, it's on fire this year again.
Yeah, that percussion staff is crazy good. I got taught by a lot of them. I wish that they could have taught me in drum corps because they were some of the best instructors that I've ever had.
Yeah, they really are.
And Stephanie, I think great time to actually plug something else that you've been working on with us a little bit. You've been putting together a series following your family throughout the summer, haven't you?
Yes, that's right. So my husband, we haven't talked about the Colts yet. My husband's program coordinator at the Colts, and I have my son that plays marimba at Cavaliers and my daughter in the guard at BD. And so every time I go out, I just record a little bit of behind the scenes. One, because people just want to know what it's like to be on the road. But the other purpose in that for me is that when I have students at the school where I teach that their kids want to do drum corps, the parents only see what they can see on YouTube. They have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. They don't know that your kid's going to eat on a food truck or what a food truck looks like or what a weekend show looks like. So it was kind of twofold. It's almost like a digital scrapbook for my kids and for my family to look back years from now. But the other part is hopefully that it will help parents feel more comfortable letting their kids participate in DCI and see that it really is a safe environment now. And that there are some great opportunities for these students that are just something that you won't get anywhere else.
That is so cool. Where could we go to check out the series?
So it's on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Stephanie Click.
Awesome. Definitely go check that out. I'm going to go check it out for sure because that the behind the scenes look at stuff is really cool. That's why I was so excited to talk to you about BD.
So this is our third season. We started in 22, so you can go back and just check it out, especially if you have a student that wants to march. Have them take a look in their parents.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that your husband is what is his responsibility over at Colts again?
He's
specifically?
A program designer at Colts.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So you're exactly the right person to talk to about the Colts show this year, I'm sure.
I can. I've been hearing it playing in my living room since September. So the Colts is doing a show this year called On Fields. Don has been with them. I think it's since 2019. I think this is year 5 or 6 for him. But it's called On Fields. And so it's about all the different fields of your life. So it starts off with field day. because we all had field day when we were young. So you'll see a lot of like playing baseball and animation, things that would happen in elementary school field day. You'll see a battlefield. As our people go off to war, there's a battlefield. You'll see a harvest field, something that is very Midwest. Of course, they're from Dubuque, so that's
yeah, that's right.
that kind of plays in to where they're from and who they are. And then in the end, fields of joy, where we all want to end up. We all want to end up with joy. So it's a great progression through. Some Pat Metheny music. So if you're a percussion person, and we all love Pat Metheny, so here's some Pat Metheny in there. But that staff and design team have been together now for, I think this is season 4 that they're going on. So I think that's why we see the Colts kind of climbing up the ladders, slowly but surely. Is because that team has been together now, and they're no longer. I think we talked about this with Pat Crest a second ago, that Colts used to be a place where you would go and you would have a really great experience, and then you would go march somewhere else. And I think now it's becoming a destination core where kids are coming in, they're starting there, but they're also ending there. And that's a great place to be for them. And it is allowing them, the horn line's becoming better. The percussion is better. The color guard is better, because they're keeping those members for longer than typically. Like I said, they're starting there and they're ending there, which is great.
Yeah, it's cool. That's what we've been seeing happening with Mandarins lately, I feel like, too. Where the experience has been so good that people don't want to use it as a stepping stone anymore. They just want to be there. And it's crazy to see like how much the group can grow once you have that kind of like returning vet membership.
Yeah, makes a huge difference.
Absolutely does.
One thing I liked about the Colts show is, well, not the show, but the way they have the one white side to their uniform, and then they have the dark side, and it's so interesting how they're using that. It cannot be easy when it comes to visual analysis.
That's right.
And you got to keep that so clean. But it's so interesting to watch them play with those two colors, and that was something I noticed right away. I thought, well, that's a brave thing to do, and it's really paying off. It's cool.
And I have a funny story about that. It's actually on my YouTube video. I think the last one that we did is the president of the board is the head of their sewing team at Colts, and they call it the Red Team Thread Team is the name of their sewing crew. But they actually, Kathy is her name, made shirts that are one side is that red and one side is the white, and they wear them in ensemble because they were afraid that something would happen and it would just look odd. So now they put those shirts on, and when you're running a drill set, or you're putting in you're producing those moments, if something odd's going to happen, from right then. You don't have to wait until they have the uniform on.
That's smart. Really cool.
That is so smart. But the Resident Troopers alumni here definitely thinks the Colts are the underrated drum corps of the season. And I have nothing but respect for those guys, even though the Colts and the Troopers have been kind of like really, really competing.
It's a friendly battle.
It really is. And honestly, that visual staff over there, they're doing phenomenal work. They are absolutely a top 3 visual staff in the entire activity, and I don't think they get enough credit for what they're doing right now, because they have been nothing but insanely clean for the past couple of years, ever since they came back from COVID. And I'm just like, holy, they're just so undeniable every year. And I don't think the Colts are getting enough credit for what they're doing. Hopefully it's starting to kind of manifest in the scoring that's coming up soon.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that way about Colts and Troopers. I think sometimes people are afraid to write down the number that probably should be written down. And so, my best wishes for both of those groups, because they really are making huge strides. And I'm glad people are starting to recognize that for both those groups.
Yeah, I hope we get to see as time goes on and these groups become more and more undeniable, that they start to just squish that gap even closer and closer. And if someday we just have, all the top 12 is crunched up in that top score bracket, that would just mean we're watching 12 fantastic shows, which I would love to see. We've got, I think, maybe one more corps here that we haven't really spoken much about. We'd have a fantastic insider, but she is off at the Blue Stars alumni weekend. I think Jackie can't be with us because she's with the Blue Stars. But what do you guys thought about Blue Stars show?
Well, first of all, from a guard perspective, you can give me Michael Shapiro twirls all day long. All day long. But, you know, I like their show. I like their show, the whole planets thing. I think it's really cool. I think, I think it's going to go through a lot of, it has a lot of room to grow, and we'll see where they take it. But, like I said, Michael Shapiro, I got you.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see where they're looking later on in the season. The show's not quite like solidified yet, but listening to the horn line warming up at Cavalcade, Blue Stars brass is something different. The sounds that horn line puts out, it's just it's incredible. It's hard to compare them to other, like, the sound that they're putting out and just the absolute volume that they're putting out is not what you'd expect for where they tend to rank score wise.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check them out like around Allentown, because they'll probably be like blasting my ears off by that point. But
oh yeah,
why don't we go around the table here and we talk about just our last thoughts here on the start of the season? Maybe things you're excited for as we get on to the rest of the tour. But Jeremy, you want to get us started?
Going into the season before shows started and everything, I was pretty excited. There were a handful of shows that I was pretty excited about, but I was a little unsure about a bunch. After seeing most of the shows at this point, there's just so much talent this season, so much great show design. It's like everyone went to the drawing board and said, okay, last year was solid. We need to go up to an 11 this year and just try to top everything we've done in the past few years. And I just can't wait to see what changes happen, because at this point the shows are for the most part done, but we're going to see probably half the show, at least designs change, whether it be visuals, whether it be drill, whether it be they rewrite the entire ballad the day before a show and then you just put on a new ballad for the show. I mean, it happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, these shows are going to be wildly different by the time we see them at finals, but wildly better for the most part. Maybe something cool will get taken out. We'll lose a little BD snare lick or something, but for the most part, everything's going to just be a marble sculpture getting polished off until we get there. Austin, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I know we're not doing Gush and Goes, but honestly, I was very reluctant with a lot of the show themes at the very beginning. When I saw the announcements, I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. And just like Jeremy said, everything seems elevated, but the one thing that's been most elevated from last year to this year is the performance of the students, and from top to bottom, it just seems better and better and better. Like, if you go watch the Colts, the Blue Coats, the Blue Devils, pretty much anyone, like, you can just watch and listen and be like, that drum corps is better than they were at the start of last season. That drum corps is better than they were at San Antonio last year right now. And you can just say that about almost every single group that you've seen. And that's just kind of the one thing that I've been most excited about watching shows all weekend. It's just been so refreshing because you can just tell that the education is coming through, and whatever these drum corps are doing on the educational side is working.
Yeah, and it's true. It's like whether it's BD or Vanguard or Crown getting better themselves, or it's some of the other groups like Colts and Troopers that maybe people have used to be able to make those dream corps someday. If every step along the way the groups are getting better, you're just getting better and better students, like all the way up the ranks through all the different corps. I think like we totally see that every single year now, every year. Cindy, what are you thinking? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm going to be in San Antonio live, and I'm looking forward to air conditioning and seeing the corps indoors. I've made the mistake the last few years of doing Broken Arrow, and it was so insanely hot that it just yeah, it wasn't enjoyable. I know I'll lose some of that nighttime magic by watching it indoors, but I am so anxious. And like you guys have said, everybody has stepped it up this year. And like we were talking about, every corps has their own identity. But what I've noticed this year is even though every corps has their own identity, I feel like each one of them is trying something new and different, if that makes sense. Like when I'm watching the show, I'm like, yeah, I recognize who that is, but that's something I haven't seen them do before. I just feel like each of the top corps are doing something unique this year. And even though they're recognizable, it's still really cool to see them even going above and beyond what we saw last year. And so I really feel like it's a tight race this year. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, I think it's cool how you were saying that, like, even though many of these corps have like a recognizable style, you can still see them like kind of continuing to carve out like their niche and like how they can do their thing cooler, even though they're not like getting far away from like what makes them special.
Exactly.
Definitely, that's like an overarching theme of the episode, I feel like. Stephanie, what are your thoughts looking towards the rest of summer?
I'm just excited. I think everybody has just brought their A game this year, which I think we've kind of alluded to this entire podcast. Is we are seeing the best that everybody has to offer, which I think is just a true representation that this is the first year that we are back to normal drum corps from COVID. So I think we've got the right players at the right places, and I think nobody is running away with this title this year, which makes for a really fun season of drum corps. So I'm just excited that everybody is on their A game, and then I think we can finally say that we have officially pushed past that COVID bubble.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. I think like comparing back to shows that groups were doing in 2019, it seems like the corps are operating at a higher level in every way at this point. It's like the shows are more complex, the members are doing more, the things are being executed just as well as they ever have been. You know, we're back for sure.
Yes.
Trish, why don't you wrap it up? What are you looking forward to?
I think what I'm looking forward to is hearing more from those corps we really haven't heard much from yet. Like where are the Blue Knights? Where are our hometown corps here in New Jersey, Jersey Surf and Raiders? Haven't heard much from them at all. All these, some of these corps that we just haven't heard anything about yet. I'm excited to see what they're up to and see how they fit into this whole mix.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to hear from them. And as we get into the further part of the summer, I didn't talk a whole lot about drums tonight, but I'm excited for the real rubber to meet the road. And we'll start to see who these best drum lines are. I'm going to have to get some drum people on at some point, do at least one good one about the drums. But thank you all for a great rehearsal this week. Thank you to our hosts, Stephanie, Trish, Cindy, Austin, and Jeremy from Drum Corps Today. Jeremy, where could we find you on social media?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Drum Corps Today, and we've got all those links with the link tree on that Instagram page.
Awesome. Yeah, so go check him out. Give Jeremy a follow. Always has great up-to-date drum corps content as we go through the season, and give us a follow as well. We've got our YouTube channel now. It's got many interviews coming out in video editions. Go subscribe. Don't want to miss those. And before you close out your podcast listening app, please subscribe to On a Water Break, write us a review, share it with a friend, follow us on social media at On a Water Break, and we will see you at the next rehearsal on a water break.
The On a Water Break podcast was produced by Jeremy Williams and Christine Ream. The intro and outro music was produced by Josh Lyda. To learn more, visit lydamusic.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.